So Yallah, it's a movie about a young boy who wants to go to the swimming pool, but it's Beirut and it's 1982, so there is conflict. And there's this man, an older man, who wants to save him. So he's gonna chase him in the city, and finally he will see the world like Naji, like the young boy sees it. And yeah, that's it.
Nice. So when you got six people working on the movie, was it hard to balance everyone's creative vision into one coherent vision? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, it was. I
So how
won't
did you
lie.
find the middle ground?
First, it's something that we learn at school. Like it's one of the major things that we learn because we have 5 years of studying together and of group projects. And then the hardest thing is to make decisions because we all have our own doubts and we don't really know who's right. So what we did is we had very specific role in the production. So everybody was responsible for specific decisions. And then my role was to be sure that we stayed consistent throughout all the decisions. So yeah, I had the final word every time, but then every person was responsible for a certain type of things, and we couldn't like just choose everyone at each time. So yeah.
So yeah, was it like did you was there like different departments like people are responsible for different parts of the movie or different things in the movie, or was it like the movie is chopped into little pieces and you're animating the first minute and you're animating the second minute?
Yeah, it's more like departments.
Hmm.
It's really like in real production. Like we had an artistic director who is Edward, who is responsible for all the looks and the textures and everything. Then we had someone who was responsible for animation, someone for lighting. And even if we were different people working on these poles, when we had to take one decisions on animation, for example, there was one person who would take that decision.
Okay. So you've mentioned that you're basically the main you were basically the main writer of the movie, and it takes place in 1982 during the siege of Beirut, as you've mentioned. Why, in particular, did you choose this event or setting for your film and for your story to take place there?
Well, that's the funny thing. It's actually a real story. So it's a story that my dad told me because he was a teenager in the 80s in Beirut, and he had to take this swimming pool exam, which was really important because it was the exam that you take to validate your studies. And he was living with his uncle at the time, who told him not to go because there was conflict and everything was destroyed and there were bombs and well, wow. And he said, "No, I really need to go." And he went, and he really arrived in front of a destroyed swimming pool and just a big hole. So this is true. And this was the base of the story. And then we had to make an ending because it was all a message of hope. And we wanted to have a real story and to be a bit surrealistic sometimes. But yeah, the setup is a real story.
Yeah, a little bit magical at the end, like
Yeah.
to choose a hopeful ending and not an ending where he just gets to the pool and can't swim. But that's so interesting to hear that that was actually based on an actual anecdote that someone told. That's
Is
interesting.
and
Um,
and
yeah.
how hard was it to balance these difficult times with a kind of light-hearted vibe mood around the movie?
It's a real question that we had throughout all the production because well, it's set in 1982 when people were asking themselves whether they should stay in Beirut or leave Beirut because it was the beginning of the war. But it's even harder to make a light movie on this now that Beirut is way worse than it was. Like that, they're not only conflict, but there is no electricity, there is no money, there is nothing, and it's way worse. So we were always wondering if we were not just making a movie made by young white Europeans making something about a situation we don't know. But what helped us was, well, to have my dad and to have like a real experience, and we just agreed that it was something based in 1982, that it was not now, and that it was a message of hope, but it's not saying, oh, it's easy to live through the war, you could just go to the swimming pool. Like, this is not our message, and I think it's clear. I hope it's clear in the movie that we're not just saying that it's okay, but we wanted to make something magical.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's basically like this. We thought when we watched the movie in our team, it's like the pool is kind of a symbol for being hopeful, but you have to sift through the whole city like to get there. It definitely wasn't like, oh, it's so easy living here. And yeah, we also wanted to ask, like, because the animation is so distinct and distinctive in your movie, were there like any influences that you had in mind when you were animating with your team, or things that just like you were throwing around a lot, like movie references or anything like that?
Our main reference was from real life. Like, we had so many pictures, so many videos of Beirut in this time. But then we also had black and white. It's an anime which is full of details, and it's really beautiful. It's from Toyo Matsumoto, and this was like the main reference for all that detail in the city. And then for animation, we looked through so much reference, and we almost went for cartoon style. And we tried it, and it didn't work. It wasn't what we wanted. So it was just testing, and finally we arrived to that. But there is not one main reference for this.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So you find it, yeah, like
Sonst will du.
that's good. So you decided like, okay, this is gonna be a 3D animation project at some point, and was that like I mean, I imagine that to be kind of hard doing research about this event in particular, especially with the background that this was a story that your dad told you. Was that hard, like seeing all those pictures and videos and like kind of getting into that headspace and transforming that into a movie that's so colorful?
Yeah, yeah, it was. And also, so it's always the same question. Like, sometimes you just watch a documentary, you watch a movie that is just terrible, and it sets your mood so bad. But then you want to make this movie which is fun and nice, and sometimes it was hard. Like, we were wondering if we were doing the right thing. And then the colors went. Well, in the beginning, it was way less colorful, and we just wanted spots of colors from now and then. Sometimes just to remember that this young boy is not the only one living here. And then it's also a particularity of Beirut. It's just that the people were always, well, at this moment, always happy, and they were always living together. So it was like the goal was to have this setup of Beirut, people being still happy, being still helpful to each other, and take that and turn it into color. So that's why we wanted to have something colorful and happy, because it's the city, and the city is actually our third character. We really saw it like a character, and if we want to have a character who is destroyed, who is hurt, but is still strong, you're gonna have some scars, and you're gonna have some weird shapes, but you're gonna have some color also. So that's what we did.
That's very interesting. One question more that we asked ourselves is, how important was it for you to tell the story in a way that it works so well without a word of spoken language? So was it a thing that kind of just happened, or was it a certain decision?
It was a decision which was really easy to make, because we all agreed on this. but not so easy to do because you have so many animation movie where people don't speak, but you see that they should be speaking, but you don't have like the money, the time to do it. And so that's what we didn't want to do. And we had so many references of what we didn't want to do. So it was when we storyboarded, we made sure to have like moments and expressions that were enough, and it wasn't like two people that should talk but didn't talk. And we didn't want voices because why? Yeah, we didn't have real dialogues. Like we didn't need them, and it was like something. Yeah, we didn't need. So we just made sure that we didn't put some.
Yeah, it worked out great. So great decision.